All right, howdy folks, and welcome to Gridiron Live. Today we are going to continue our Toronto Raptors franchise mode in ESPN NBA 2Night 2002. Let's see. So our record right now is 8-1. So that's the best record we have had. Pretty much, yeah, definitely for the entire franchise. So we are on the best stretch so far. We have a couple games left. We have Atlanta, Chicago, Indiana, Charlotte, and Indiana. And then it's playoff time after that. I am expecting wins against Atlanta and Chicago. But with this game, you just never know. But before we get to that, let's go ahead and roll the intro.
The right to bear arms is guaranteed in the Constitution, sir.
We're going to hold on to him by the nose, and we're going to kick him in the ass. We're going to kick the hell out of him all the time, and we're going to go through him like crap through a goose.
Roger Vick pounded his way for 11 yards and a touchdown after taking...
We're going to cut out their living guts and use them to grease the treads of our tanks. We're going to murder those lousy Hun bastards by the bushel.
All right. The restream is telling me that it's sending data to YouTube, even though I can see clearly that I am live on YouTube. Don't know what's up with that. But if I can see me, then you can see me. So let's see. We'll just take a look at our starters real quick so everyone can be refreshed on where we are. The team is looking pretty solid. Everyone is over a 75, and we have Vince Carter at 94 and McDyess at 86. So that'll be pretty good. Clark and Patterson and Jackson all over 75. And then our bench is also looking pretty good. We have Curry as a reserve for center. We got Hardaway, Stockton. He is only a 69, but he has a pretty good 3-point rating. Got Don Batty, Mr. Lou here, Stephania, and Hunter. So pretty solid bench as well. That gives us an overall of 83, offense of 82, and a defense of 92. And you guys know what they say about defense. Defense wins championships. Okay, so we are number one in the league right now, in front of Dallas and Boston. Atlanta is number 9 at 6-5. And Chicago is down here at number 28 at 3-9. But don't be fooled by that, because we've been beaten by some of these basement teams before. So Restream still says sending data. Let's see if it's changed. Huh. I wonder why it says that. I can see myself. Before we continue, I just want to make sure that we are live. Just making sure. Just making sure. I can see. Let's see what it says. So on my YouTube page it says upcoming It doesn't say live. Why is that? Well, now it says live. Huh. That's weird. It says live. How's it going, Patrick? I was just confused whether the stream was live on YouTube or not, because Restream is telling me that it was just sending data, but I can see it on my laptop. But you know, looks like we're good. Never any issue. Alright, so we'll head into the game. So Atlanta is number 6, I think, or number 9. And then Chicago is down at number 28. Refreshed it and it worked. Huh. Maybe it just took a while. Hopefully it doesn't mess up the playback or the replay. That's alright. Because I use Restream for Twitch as well. I don't really have anything on Twitch, but figured, well, I can stream up to 2 platforms for free, so might as well do Twitch. I don't think there's any other platforms that are really worth it right now. No Raps. So Patrick, did you see my list of cities that I was looking at for this Continental Football League? I have 5 Canadian teams, 5 Mexican teams, and then the rest are all US teams. There's also one team from Puerto Rico, which I did check. It's a 4 hours flight from Texas, from Houston, one of the major cities. It's close enough to it. So I thought, yeah, 4 hours is pretty decent for travel time. To share a division, so that's what I was looking at when looking at these teams. Having Mexican teams that aren't too far away from the border, and then of course Canada has pretty much all their major cities close to the border, so that wasn't a big issue.
Get the ball and throws it into the paint. The ball spins out. Brings it to the attack court.
So we miss our first shot.
It's good.
So there's Abdur-Rahim again. We almost ended up getting him for a trade. So Abdur-Rahim could have been wearing purple right now.
Abdur-Rahim. Terry. Avery. Finds his man in the... Got a piece of that one.
Yes, a bunch of people were commenting about the game. I like the continental vibe. USA still has a lot of teams, but good to see a lot of people represented. Dice could push the Raps over the top. I think so. I mean, ever since he's been on the team, he's really pushed the team over the edge as far as actually not just being competitive, but being able to finish a game, come out with the win. As far as the Continental League, though, I don't know if the league is like a true international league. I kind of envisioned it sort of like a competitor to the NFL or to the, I forget the NFL. Does not exist in my game. It's the AGL. It's a competitor to the AGL, but they decided to try to go to different markets. So they went to Mexico and they went to Canada as well. It's kind of like the MLB and the NBA that have like one or two teams in Canada.
The Hawks.
So that's kind of what I was envisioning. But I do like that there's more than just one or two teams. So we have
With the 10-footer, the shooter's touch.
11 international teams if you count Puerto Rico. I know Puerto Rico is
Moving up. Lopez
the U.S. territory.
recovers the ball.
It's foreign enough.
Avery. And throws it into the paint. And he rips the net with a
Puerto Rico as well. Nice little addition. Yeah. So I was looking at different major cities, and San Juan has, I don't know, like 500,000, I think. Almost a million.
Abdurrahim.
I thought it's a pretty big market. It's close enough to the U.S. and to where you'd think that they would have a lot of interest in football.
McDice with the turnaround. And he can't connect from the outside. With the spin. Lopez.
That might help performance. Sometimes when I have the mouse click somewhere else, the frame rate of the emulator drops. I have to make sure the
The Raptors.
emulator is selected as a window.
Clark. Carter.
The NFL would be in Canada, but the CFL won't let it happen.
Passes it into the lane. Swish.
Oh, that was a nice dime.
In the last season, the
Well, I don't know if
NHL
the CFL does the CFL have any. You're saying the CFL has some kind of authority over that, or
The Raptors down by 4. Now
the CFL's
McDice.
dominance in Canada?
McDice. Jackson.
Because I was doing a little bit of research on CFL teams and like where they are, and then I learned that the CFL actually had they had that 1 year in the 90s,
William.
1 or 2 years where they had the American teams,
William.
and they've folded
Abdurrahim.
probably for the same reason that an American team
With a big time block.
might fail in Canada.
Just watching your shot punished like that.
So that is the end of the first quarter.
Yeah, Toronto's not doing the greatest right now. Atlanta has been one of those teams that they're not at the bottom of the league, but they're also not at the top. And it seems like it might be an easy game one game, and then they come back the next game and give you trouble. Who's tired? Jackson. Stockton in there. And we'll get Curry.
The second quarter on the way. The Hawks up by.
But I was looking at Canadian cities, and there's a lot of
Avery. William.
actually a lot of major cities
Too much passing around.
in Canada that have
Passes it in. Denied.
high population
Moves up.
but don't have any kind of
Dice.
sports team,
Stockton.
at least not on a major league level. I was surprised that Vancouver didn't have a CFL team. I think they did at one point. But
Somebody has got to make a move.
it seems like the CFL has like tried to expand in the past and then they contract, where they only have 9 teams now, which is kind of a little crazy. You'd think they'd have more.
The Raptors down by 2. Dribbling up court. Williams. Abdurrahim with authority.
Oh, yeah, y'all.
Regina was a good city, I think. Vancouver,
Moving up.
Brompton.
Batee. Stockton. Batee.
Nice
And
rip.
Vancouver's team is called the BC Lions.
Williams.
Okay.
Lopez. And he's
So Vancouver does have a team, in which case
Lopez.
I might have to change that.
Too strong. The Hawks lead by 4. Brings it
So
to
Vancouver
the attack
does
court.
have one. Okay.
Curry. Stockton.
I probably saw that, but I just didn't register that Vancouver is in British Columbia.
Lopez comes up with a steal.
Yeah.
2.5 minutes remaining in the first half. Avery. Abdurrahim. Lopez
So
sends it out to Avery. All net. The Hawks.
I know that Regina had. I know they had a LFL team at one point, which isn't saying much, but seems like there have been some kind of professional teams there in the past.
Recovers the ball. Look out below.
Nice job in those pictures, fellas.
Lopez. So far, he has scored 6 points. The Raptors down by 8.
But I also wanted to stay out of
He brings the house down.
NFL cities
One more dunk like that, and they're gonna have to
because people
change
kind of
the
get. I don't know if people can really handle that many professional teams, especially of the same sport in the same city.
The Raptors down by 6.
Their stadium is in Vancouver, but
Shot rejected.
You ain't gotta go home, but you got to get
all
the heck
good.
up outta here
The
with that
CFL has
Carter
a lot of history, so I think the CFL union makes it hard to make an NFL team here.
the rebound to Batiste. Pulls it down. Nails it to.
Well, it just seems odd that the CFL
Down by 4.
union has any kind of power over whether or not
Abdurrahim.
a city that has nothing to do with the CFL
Vaughn
has an NFL team.
passes it into McLeod.
Come on, it's time to get something going. Let's see what they can pull out.
I can see if maybe like Toronto or Saskatchewan or any of the CFL cities also wanted to have an NFL team.
Down by 6.
I can see the CFL
A minute remaining in the first half.
being able to pressure that city
Carter
to say no to that.
passes the ball
But if it's
into
not a
the paint.
CFL city, then I don't know how that would happen.
Stockton. McDice goes for 2. Gets a 2.
My man really sees the course.
Seems like the NFL has tried to expand
Williams. Vaughn.
into different countries.
Abdurrahim. With
Like the
spin.
NFL Europe was kind of interesting,
McLeod.
but it didn't have enough of a following.
Vaughn. And with the layup.
Good
I think besides the German
His
team.
field goal percentage was 53%. Woods intercepts the pass. Vaughn
Which if the NFL doesn't expand
passes it
into another continent, I think that's fine.
Stop that slam.
He just rammed over that
You just can't really call yourself
Has
world
5
champion,
field goals.
you know.
The
But at the
Raptors
same time,
by 8. McDice
you know, being a world champion
sends the ball in. Rejected.
implies that you'd be able to beat anyone in the world.
to swat that.
And if other countries in the world can't even support a team, you know, you've effectively beaten them, you know. That's how I see it.
Carter denied
That's his first block of the game.
with a turnaround. That brings us to the end of the first half. The Raptors.
It's an
14,
enigma.
The Hawks 22.
The Buffalo Bills don't want an Ontario team. The team, same with the Lions. They tried the Bills to play in Toronto, and it went okay. Yeah, sometimes the NFL will play games in Mexico City. I'm not sure what they're trying to do with that. They're trying to build interest or something. Sometimes they'll play games in London for whatever reason, which I don't get. I don't know if it's just like a one-off thing or if they're actually trying to build interest there. They didn't have a good team like they do now. If they had a good team, more people would have went to those Bills games. Yeah, I think we're good right now, except for maybe McDice. We'll get Patterson in there. NFL is the only big sports team not in Toronto.
Lead by 8. Woods.
My man just took the ball right
That
out
is
of his
true.
hands. Too easy.
Oh, forgot to get myself out of the game.
Seeks help. Batee.
Yeah, Toronto has, of course, a CFL team. They have baseball team, MLB, and they have NHL team. So they have Canadian football, baseball, and hockey. And probably other sports that I'm not thinking of.
Nowhere to rock that ball in.
Soccer, maybe? I don't know.
They're just running them.
Carter. Gets it out to Batee. Swish.
Hello, somebody, anybody, put a hand on that guy.
Seems like there's no reason why there shouldn't be
Terry.
an American football team there,
The rebound by
considering its distance from the U.S. and
throws it into the paint.
just the marketability of it, you know.
His form was just awful in that last attempt.
Vaughn gets the ball in the
And also considering that there's a lot of American players that do play in the CFL, even with the CFL's
Batee.
Canadian quotas.
Jackson. Patterson.
They're passing the ball too much. Somebody's got to shoot.
Toronto has MLS and lacrosse.
The Raptors down by 6.
CFL, NFL would work in Toronto.
Williams swipes the ball away.
Yeah, that's true.
Lopez
I think,
bubbles up the rebound. And with the reverse
yeah, I mean, there's no reason why there shouldn't be
so far he has scored
American football
8
teams in
points.
Canada.
The Hawks lead by 8.
But that's why I included them in the Continental League.
Jackson. Carter. Clark. And he spins. Throws up a tough one. Knocks in a 2.
I thought for a second that, I didn't know if I wanted the leagues to be actually competing head to head,
By 6.
or if the Continental League
2
was
minutes
more of
remaining
a
in the third quarter. And with a reverse dunk.
number 2 to the AGL, to where like some of the best players in the Continental League could play in the AGL. Most of them probably wouldn't start, but they, you know,
He's out in the crowd.
the top of the Continental League could play in the AGL. But the bulk of
The
them
Hawks lead by 6.
were good in college, but not quite good enough for the AGL. So I kind of like there to be that sort of, not really a minor league, but
Abdurrahim.
just like a secondary professional league that kind of scoops up a lot of the college talent that
Down by 8.
didn't make the AGL.
Patterson. Back out to
I think there's a market for that.
Clark.
Toronto Argonauts is a CFL
Gets the
team,
ball out to Patterson. The rebound
and
to
smart to add it in your game because Toronto is a sports town.
Terry.
Toronto's a sports town,
Into Abdurrahim.
and
Save the women and children.
He really took that.
I figure there's a lot of other Canadian cities that could support a team.
The Hawks lead by 10.
Their stadiums would probably be smaller and stuff,
Batee with the layup.
and they'd only, increase their stadium size
Lead by 8.
if it was warranted.
Terry.
And that's another thing that I haven't mentioned yet, is that
Terry.
stadium size does increase in the game,
Avery.
but it's based on
It counts and a foul.
it's based on money. So if your program does do good for, like, does really well in a short period of time, then you should have enough money to make expansions to your stadium. Especially if your stadium is kind of modest already.
McDice into Carter. The rebound by Lopez.
So that's another cool thing that will be added.
Clark with the defensive
And I'm
rebound.
kind of debating on whether or not the stadium sizes will expand and contract as well.
Clark. Patterson.
That way,
Carter.
there could be like a period of 20 years where a team is really good, and so they expand their stadium and they do all this stuff.
Welcome back to the game.
But then they might have a season of drought, right? And so they start to get less money and they can't upkeep their stadium, and so maybe it has to,
The rebound to
maybe it has to be shrunk a little bit. I think that's kind of cool.
35. Atlanta. Williams. Terry.
Secondary league to build talent that got passed up.
And with the jumper.
Yeah, I think that's basically
Keep him off the glass.
I think that's basically what the Continental League is going to be.
Mad elevation on that one. You know what, Brent? They have all their weapons out on the court right now.
And just so there's a little bit more creativity,
McDice. He brings the house down.
because the AGL is modeled after the NFL in 1998, so
26.
a lot of the teams are going to
Atlanta.
remind you of a certain team, you know what I mean?
Abdurrahim. Williams. Avery. Williams. Avery.
Time to go to the basket. Too much passing
I will
around.
send you the game via Discord after today's stream and show you the game
Clark.
I'm currently
Passes the
playing.
ball into the paint.
Maybe you can get some subtle
Takes the
ideas.
defensive board. Abdurrahim. And he
What
brings
game are
it
you
up
playing?
court. Lopez.
Is it one of those
They're not going
online manager games? I know there's quite a bit of those.
McDice. Jackson.
If it's on Steam, then I've probably seen it already.
Dog, his fingerprints must be all over that ball.
Lopez. Terry.
Come on, it's time to get something going. Let's see what they can pull off.
But I kind of want to be careful,
Clark.
because
Gets the ball in the paint.
I'm not trying to make like a strict manager game,
50%.
because I'm not really interested in that per se.
Gets it out to
It's more about
It's a good thing the backboard didn't break with that slam.
Lord have
how all
mercy,
that
them
affects
niggas
your
can go so
character.
proud. Pookie and them and Ray Ray,
I think that's really what I'm
Lucretia,
going
Moesha,
for.
Baby daddy, and the crowd loves it.
And honestly, it's probably going to be partially
Island shot. Drops in
a nostalgia simulator as well. I don't know exactly what that means yet, but
Terry.
a lot of the ideas,
Avery.
concepts that I've
Abdurrahim.
come up with
With the
really
22
come
footer.
down to that.
The rebound by Clark. Jackson. Sends the ball.
Oh yeah, he is causing some serious
U
havoc out
Football GM, really fun.
Abdurrahim.
Black name but good
Lets it
game.
go. With the two.
there. I'll tell you,
U Football GM.
man,
Let's
sure
look that up.
into this one.
I think I've seen that.
The Hawks lead by 11. Curry. And he spins. Throws up a tough one.
Is it called Football GM or U Football GM?
Stockton. McDice.
I think I might have seen that.
McDice.
That dude ought to be arrested for grand larceny
On
when he
my
stole the ball.
State of Football Gaming video. If it's on Steam, then I'm pretty sure I've seen it. But I see that there's a
Avery.
browser-based game called Football GM.
Allen. Lopez. Brings it in himself.
That was a great shot.
I see some Reddit posts on U Football GM.
Shoots the jumper. All net.
Oh, is that a Android
Lead
game?
by 11. Lopez.
Or phone game, mobile
30
game.
seconds to go on the game clock. Back out to Avery. Finds his man in the paint. Knocks the ball loose. Avery.
Send me the picture of what it
with
looks
the
like.
spin. Pops the jumper. Nails it too.
Okay, let's see what it looks like.
Straight up handles right there.
So far in the game, he is shooting
Okay, yeah,
50%.
it's an Android
But T
mobile
passes it
game.
into the lane. He follows
Yeah, that's something that
Nobody boxed him out.
I was looking at the other day.
34.
I was like, there's
45.
definitely a lot more manager style football games that have cropped up on mobile the past couple years.
And that brings us
I might do a video just looking at those,
the Hawks.
kind of like how I did for Steam.
And look like they could go on forever with their terrific team chemistry. Stuart,
Now, Brent, team chemistry is their key. With
So
everybody
yeah,
doing what
I
is
might take a
asked of
look
them,
at it.
the whole team
I've
believes
probably seen a couple already.
the Raptors have to concentrate
Did we
on
lose
team
this one?
basketball, offensively and defensively. Help out, set screens, move the rock, anything.
Tough game,
to get
34 to
everybody in the game.
45. Not a
final
good score there.
45, 34. Thanks for joining us, folks.
Abdur-Rahim
For Stuart
scoring
Scott,
16
this is
points.
Ramos bidding you farewell. You've been watching ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports.
GM Gunner says, I'm so lazy I can't check Discord to see if you saw my
You're
message.
watching the NBA on ESPN.
How's the season? Well, Patrick just said we are 7-2 after this game. And what message? Oh. Yeah. Yeah, I answered your question in the Discord. GM Gunner. Okay, so that probably not. No, we're still at number 1. No, number 2 in the league. Number 1 in the Eastern Conference. Still number 2 though, not bad. Behind Dallas. Atlanta moves down to number 7 though. Next game is against Chicago, who has been bumped up 1 spot. Yeah, 8-2. That's right. Yeah. So, worst case scenario, we finish 8-6. I mean, I figure we got to win at least 2 of these games, right? Hopefully. Man, there's Stockton, our guy Stockton. Radley looks a little messed up there. Looks like a mugshot just after he got beat up or something. All right, I guess we'll go to Chicago then. Chicago it is. Yeah, the gist of my answer, Gunner, was that it's an RPG because
Good afternoon.
you have an avatar and you
From Chi-Town,
build the skills and
it's
level
the
of
NBA
that
on
avatar.
ESPN. I'm Brett Musburger.
And
joined by my esteemed colleague, Stuart
There's a
Scott.
personality
The
system.
Chicago Bulls take on the
There's even a
Toronto
moral
Raptors.
alignment system.
And now for the PA announcement.
I couldn't use like good and evil because that's a little too much for sports. So I went with virtue and ambition. I don't know if virtue is the right word, but virtue is like the good side, and then, or maybe the side that follows the rules to the T, and then ambition is the side that doesn't. Ambition means the more ambitious a character is, the more likely they are to bend and break the rules. So there's going to be times when your character has the opportunity to do
Now the ball is up. In the bull.
an action,
Get the ball.
and that action will either add to your
Walker.
virtue or your ambition.
And it's good.
Oh, no, he didn't, y'all.
So I guess off the top of my head, if I could think of a game that's a little bit like that, maybe Mass Effect. If you ever played Mass Effect, you know, you're going along and then you're suddenly presented with
Jackson.
a
Carter.
dilemma. You can either do this or that.
And he spins.
And depending on what you do,
I'll tell you,
it'll have different benefits
mad handles.
and penalties depending on what happens.
Mashburn.
So it's very much a different kind of game for a sports game.
Mashburn.
It's not something that's ever been done before in that regard.
Jackson. And throws it into the paint. Takes a shot. He got it.
Representing.
Ambition. You don't see that stat a lot. Sounds legit. It's a stat like in D&D that makes more specific choices based on this value.
Two.
No, ambition is not like how driven you are.
Miller.
I know it kind of sounds like that, and so maybe ambition is not the right word.
Jackson.
I was looking for a word that could describe
Patterson.
They are using a smart
The-
strategy on D.
the personality trait that someone has
Mercer.
that describes someone who's willing to break rules. Someone who's willing to bend the rules
Jackson.
to get ahead versus someone who is not.
Clark.
Someone who's
Dice.
going to follow every single rule and
Away.
is going to do it by the book. Those are two different extremes, right? And so most people are going to fall somewhere in between. And so that's the moral alignment system.
Curry.
It doesn't have anything to do with how driven they are to succeed.
Get a witness from the congregation.
The Bulls. Down by two.
And so what that
Wesley. T.
attribute is going to affect
Williams.
is,
Wesley. Williams. Mercer.
Somebody has got to.
for example,
The swipe.
if your character has made more ambitious choices,
Williams.
um,
Carter grabs the rebound.
they'll probably start out small. Like it might be a small decision. If your ambition is low, you might be presented with a decision to like,
Batiste.
oh, well, maybe you just extend practice
That offensive rebound.
by an hour, even though that's against the rules. So that'll add a little bit of ambition. So you might get some kind of benefit for it, but it also adds to your ambition.
Batiste.
So the more ambitious your character becomes,
Batiste.
the more he's willing to do things
Batiste. Finds his man in the
to
lane.
try to get ahead,
The shot went in and out.
and that could also have negative
Dribbling up the floor.
effects,
Jackson.
just like it'll have beneficial effects.
Into Carter.
So
Batiste.
you can imagine,
Defensive rebound.
look at college coaches that
Wesley.
do things under the table, you know, that they give money to people that shouldn't be getting money, or they, in high school, recruiting players is against the rules, but there's coaches that do it anyway. And then some coaches get caught and some don't.
Patterson. The Raptors.
So it'll
need to
probably
be more focused on their passes.
that's another thing, is that like the more ambitious your coach is, maybe that has something to do with
Brings it to the
how
attack
likely he
court.
is at getting caught or something like that. I just wanted there to be some kind of moral alignment system that'll force you to make decisions based on different things. Also,
Curry with the
Um,
22-footer. The rebound by.
every program, every team has some kind of administrator.
That slam could have broken the basket.
For example, college teams have their athletic director.
Gets it out
Professional teams have their GM or their owner.
to Deuce.
Now, Brent,
And then high school teams have the principal or whoever is in charge of that.
Batiste.
And so they have a personality system as well. And so
Batiste.
they're going to judge you based on that system.
Back out to Curry. Batiste.
So if, let's say if you're a finalist for a new position,
Should count. It's the end of the first quarter.
the game might tell you you were a finalist for this position, but because of your ambition level, you know, the AD wanted someone who was more or less ambitious, basically. Something like that. Where those stats will affect you in a lot of different areas.
Nothing but twine.
This season he has a
And so just because you've
58%.
bent or broken the rules to get ahead doesn't mean that you're going to be guaranteed higher positions
Brings it up court.
in other places, because
Gets the ball.
sometimes the people that are in charge of making those decisions don't want people like you.
Showing us some lousy ball handling.
Or maybe they do.
Carter. Curry.
So I think that would be an interesting
Perimeter to Carter. Shoots it
an
over
interesting
the line.
dimension to play on.
Can't keep him off the glass. And with the reverse jam.
Oh, no, he didn't, y'all.
Curry. So far he has
Willing to
scored.
cheat to win. I like it.
The Bulls down by 5.
So if you have a female head coach, could she sleep with
Out to
the
Williams.
scoring players or more ambitious characters?
10 points.
Oh, with top scoring players or more ambitious characters? I don't know if there's going to be anything like that specifically,
With the off-balance shot.
but there's going to be
Moving up.
choices that are going to come along the way.
Williams.
Um,
Sends the ball into the paint.
but for college, it could be, you know, offering
Remaining in the first half.
things that are not supposed to be offered.
Last season he had a shooting
Money
percentage
or
of 43%.
it's usually something of financial value, stuff like that.
With the 22-footer. The rebound to Williams.
But yeah, I do want the player to be able to kind of play how they want to. So if they do want to take a more crooked road, just like you can be a thief or something in a different type of game,
Knocks in a 2.
you can be that kind of character in this game.
The Raptors down by 1. Batiste.
And there's just like how you can get caught, and there's penalties for that in another type of game. There'll be penalties and benefits in this game.
Bulls down by 1. Mashburn. Williams. Passes the ball into the paint. Knocks the ball loose. Passes it into Wesley.
So it's
Rebound to Batiste. Dribbling
so
up
the
ball.
personality system
Patterson. Curry.
is basically
Back out to
it's basically
Patterson.
moral alignment,
That slam.
Mojo.
and it's like moral alignment on the x-axis, and then
Call for a timeout.
I guess attitude or method on the y-axis. So the y-axis is going to be tradition on one extreme
Down by 3. Moving up.
and trend on the other extreme. An example of those would be
Shot rejected.
a very traditional coach who has very conventional methods, or like the old way.
Mercer.
And then you have different kinds of coaches that, you know, play rap music during the practice. They have sideline props, and they do whatever it takes
Curry
to appeal to
passes it into.
the players of the time, you know. So those are two archetypes
Batiste
that I think would be an interesting
with the 22
part of the
footer.
personality
Misses the
system.
shot. The Bulls down by 1. Not much time to go.
You said that these positions have their own character metrics. If that's the case, can we incorporate real-world scenarios like the head coach or a player unavailable for a few games due to a DUI charge?
Up nicely.
He leaped over everybody.
Yeah, that's something that
The Raptors now have
that would be a part of that,
Batiste
because the players have this personality system as well.
Mercer with the
So
22-footer. The shooter's touch. He came ready tonight.
players that are
Bulls now have
that have more ambition.
candy from a baby. Not this
When I
time.
say ambition, it sounds like I'm talking about personal drive,
And
but
it's the end
I'm
of the
not.
first half. The Raptors.
But
19.
players that have more of this characteristic, those are more likely to be party animals. Those are more likely to be the ones that can't manage their money, the ones that, like Ryan Leaf or heck, even Johnny Manziel, for example. Players that do outrageous things that would include, drugs and different things. But how far would you go with such calamity? Well, it would affect your players negatively. It would affect your team negatively. And that's another thing, is that there's also, since every player, every coach has a personality system, different style of personality.
Shoots it over the block. Batum pulls it down.
There's also
Moves up. Lou.
team dissonance versus unity.
Lou.
So the more
Batum.
clashing personalities that you have, the more dissonant your team is.
Batum.
So
Nails a two. And it's a three.
to the degree that you're dissonant, the greater the penalties are. And to the degree that you're unified,
The ball in the paint. And a defensive foul.
either the lesser the penalties are or the greater the benefits.
Wesley will
The
go
team
to the
unity is
line.
another vector.
He makes the first.
Off the field issues is a good metric for sure. Should have positive metrics too, like your guard helps out food drive, plus 10 morale.
Carter.
Yeah.
Curry.
I mean, in a sense, you wouldn't want to overwhelm the player.
The ball away.
No, I don't think it.
Batum.
The way I've envisioned it is that it's not overwhelming, but
Carter.
there's just
Lou
random
will
moments
let it go.
where you're presented with a certain incident of some kind.
Mercer.
And so you make a choice,
His shot rejected.
and that choice will
The rebound by Wesley.
change your personality metrics in some way, whichever way you end up doing things.
Rebounds. Batum. Lou.
So it's not like you're actively dealing with this all the time,
I'll tell you, Brent, my man can flat get
but
up.
that's something that's in the perimeter basically, and it presents itself probably randomly, different times,
The Raptors lead by 4.
and it's something that affects you passively as well.
Williams with the 22.
So, for example,
Swish. Very impressive.
if you have a certain personality trait to a certain degree, then when you go to
Anderson.
try to get hired at a different program, your choices will follow you, is what I'm saying. So
The Raptors lead by 2. Walker.
They're passing the
if you're a finalist for this position, that'll move you up
With the 22
in the football world.
Rebound by Mashburn. The rebound to
But
Patterson.
the AD or whoever ends up saying,
Carter.
you were a finalist, but sorry, your
Batum. Jackson.
ambition or whatever it is too high or whatever, so we're not going to hire you.
The Bulls.
So
Down by
your
4.
decisions
Brings it to the attack
are
court.
going to follow you.
With the turnaround. Nothing but net. And it's a 2-point game again. The Raptors
That's basically
lead
what
by
I
2.
mean.
Patterson brings it in himself.
I just want there to be different avenues to evaluate things,
Down by 4. Mashburn shoots it over the block.
other than just
You betcha.
putting the highest numbers at the top of your roster and that being it.
It's a 1-point game. The Raptors lead by
Nice
1.
bucket there. Yeah, we're up by 1. Make that 3.
And it's a 3-point game again. Raptors lead by 3. Into Williams. It's good.
We're going to fight for this lead.
The Bulls down by 1. Passes it into Curry. Mercer, Walker, into, knocks the ball loose.
Blocked.
Pulls up with the 2.
He must be butter because he's on a roll.
And it's a 1-point game again.
And once again, our defender just stands there.
The Bulls.
So
lead
now
by
Chicago's up by 1 point.
1. Patterson, Jackson, Curry.
Curry jumps in for the dunk.
Booyah!
Boom.
The Bulls down by 1. Walker. Williams with a 12-footer. Curry.
He got the rebound.
Defensive board. Moves up. Jackson.
The selection method for pretty much every game I've played has been almost predetermined in a sense. Picking the highest numbers. Yeah, and that's what I'm trying to avoid. Because here's the thing.
Williams. Walker. Puts
That's
up a shot as time expires.
That's kind of been the convention for sports games
And it's a 1-point
for a very
game
long
again.
time. And it's because it works. It's a simple and straightforward way to do it.
Raptors lead by 1.
And people are used to
So that's
that.
the end of the third
So
quarter.
it's hard to break those conventions if that's what everyone expects. But
The final quarter is on the way. The Raptors up by 1. Miller, Mashburn, Walker got a piece of that one. Rejected.
I just get bored,
And
you
he
know,
swats it away again.
after, half a season of doing that, it's like,
Patterson,
meh.
Somebody has got to make a move to the hoop.
You know,
Jackson,
I always pick on NCAA 14. NCAA 14 puts you on an upward trajectory.
All that in a bag of chips.
It's like walking on an elevator or walking on an escalator that's going up. If you just stayed put, you would still get better,
Walker,
And so once you reach a certain point,
Williams,
there's no going down. Like once you hit the peak,
Miller,
it's going to keep you there. Like there's nothing that can bring you down and make you have to
swish.
struggle. Because if you look at,
Lead by 1.
just look at real teams. Real teams have their windows of success, their seasons of success.
Cuts in. Swipes
And
the
then
ball
that
away.
dries up and they fall into
Recovers the ball.
maybe mediocrity for a while. Maybe they sink below that
Jackson,
into failure, and then something happens, something changes, and then they go up again. Or some teams never go up. I really want that fluctuation to be built into the game
and he brings it up
and
court.
not have to follow house rules to make it challenging.
The iron. Patterson,
I read this Facebook group about NCAA 14 dynasties,
Clark,
and that's all people are doing. They're having to
10-footer.
follow house rules on recruiting because it's too easy.
Tonight his field goal percentage is 100%.
They make the sliders damn near impossible because the gameplay isn't challenging. And then they make up all these stories and like all these season stories
Finds his man in the
because
lane.
they're trying to make the game more interesting.
The Bulls should try
I want
to
stuff like that
better
that's
and
just
get
built in.
everybody-
So you don't have to make it up or pretend or imagine. It's actually happening,
Miller throws up a tough one. Mashburn gobbles up the rebound. And with the reverse slam.
But yeah, I don't want it to be just put the numbers at the top.
Pookie and them and Ray Ray, Lucretia, Moesha, Baby Daddy.
I want it to be a little bit harder to evaluate players
McDice,
than just looking at their overall.
Carter,
Obviously, player overalls that
all net.
are like way higher than another one, that player is usually going to be better.
Field goals.
But for players that are like within 10, 15, 20 points of each other,
Down by 6. Dribbling up
if they have other attributes,
Williams.
they're still incredibly valuable.
Miller
So a good example of that would be personality traits, for example. If you have the option to get this 80 overall player and he's really good, has really good talent, versus a 70 overall player, their actual skills are obviously mismatched. But the 70 overall player fits better into your team as a whole, right? Maybe he has better personality for the team. Or maybe he has special skills that kind of make him on par or maybe even better than that 80 overall player who doesn't have any skills. Or special abilities, I should say. So it's trying to evaluate players in a different way other than just looking at their number, you know.
The Raptors lead by 6.
How can you put metrics on subjective subject matter? Lots of composite combinations of interacting attributes.
Passes the ball.
I don't understand the question because
Denied. Recovers the ball. And
I
the
think
shot from the outside is missed.
you're probably making it more complex in your head. To me, it's very simple.
Stockton.
Your characters just have additional
Gets it
attributes.
out to McDice. The rebound
Right.
by Clark. And with the reverse.
Because right now, the most
Straight blowing stuff.
a coach has ever had in a popular sports game is
Miller
a name,
passes it into.
maybe an appearance,
With the layup.
You have to pressure that guy more.
and then maybe an offense or defense style, and that's about it.
The Bulls.
They don't have personality, they don't have,
The Bulls pick up their first foul.
you know, all these kind of different characteristics
The line to shoot 2.
that affect the game mostly passively.
First.
It's so simple. Well, it's simpler than what it seems like.
No sweat on that one. My man just calmly
Simpler than what it seems like
In the last
you're
season,
making it,
his
is what I'm
three-throw
saying.
percentage was 85%. And that's the end of this exciting game. The Raptors beat the Bulls 48.
It's basically just taking RPG elements
Now have a
and
4-game
putting it
losing
into a
streak
football
on their
game.
hands with this evening's loss. Stuart,
The Raptors played exceptional
And
basketball today.
I should say as
Covering all
well
the
that
bases by scoring, rebounding, dishing out
the game is not going to have,
defense. The Bulls
you're not going to control
as a
the
team
characters
and
on the
get
field.
everybody involved in the offense
It's
and
going to be a
defense.
coach mode game.
thank you for tuning into the NBA on ESPN.
So
So long, everyone.
you're basically
You've
just
been
going to watch the
watching
games
ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports.
and, you know,
For
make
more,
play calls
log
or
on
make
to
adjustments.
ESPN.com. You're watching the NBA on ESPN.
So that's going to remove an entire, it's going to remove an entire area of complexity. My question is more like, what could come from such combinations? Mind-blowing right now. Well, it's just going to affect how you build your team, how you evaluate players, where you can go in the football world. For example, NCAA 14, you can get hired anywhere. You can get hired straight out of a tiny college, and now you're the head coach of Alabama. That doesn't fly with me. I never like stuff like that. It's too easy. I want the game to be more about your character and how that character influences other characters, and how your character's decisions influence where they can go. In the game I sent you, speaking of personality, some players are red face, some orange, some yellow, some green, and some dark green that are really happy. They're more likable, the more of a team player. They are even if they fit the scheme. Yeah, let's play this Indiana game. Yeah, there is going to be a morale system as well that's mostly passive. I thought about having the morale system be during the game, so that'll affect your players as the game is happening.
Toronto. It's NBA action on ESPN.
And there's certain things you can do to try to mitigate that.
Beside me is the always entertaining Stuart Scott.
And
The
then
Toronto Raptors take on the Indiana Pacers. And now for the PA announcement.
I guess the morale system could also be like throughout the season. It would go up and down. So your career mode moves through taking on a lifelong career from lower college all the way to a realistic end. It starts you in high school. And it starts you somewhere random in the country. Well, you can pick where you want to start, as far like if you want to start in Texas, or if you want to start in Louisiana or New York or wherever.
Win the tip.
So you pick a state, and then it'll assign you a random
Knocks down the
high
18-footer.
school
Somebody put
in
a
that
hand on
state.
guy. Something, please.
And then
McDice.
the game mechanics would be designed in such a way
Patterson. McDice.
that you would take
McDice.
as realistic a course as possible.
Jackson. McDice.
Somebody has got to make a move to the hoop.
And the first bucket goes in for
So
the Raptors.
I think you'll get about 50 seasons out of a career. I think 50 is a pretty good number. So you spend 50 seasons to do something, right?
Harrington.
And each playthrough is going to be different.
Back out to Foster.
Somebody call the ambulance because dude's
So some playthroughs you might never make it out of high school.
Jackson. McDice.
You might do pretty well in high school. You might be one of the best high school coaches ever, but you never made it out of high school.
Jackson.
they're passing the ball too much.
And then sometimes
No way,
you
Jose.
might make it into the college ranks.
Foster.
And then maybe you don't do so hot, and then maybe you fall back down into high school.
Reject.
Or you do pretty well, and you find a
Van
a
Horn.
decent mid-tier program, and that's kind of the level you stay at
O'Neal.
for the rest of your career.
Go of the ball.
In other playthroughs, you might exceed that. You might go to the highest levels of college football.
Clark.
And then in some playthroughs, you might make it to the professional leagues.
Lays it up.
I don't want to be strictly linear, to where you have to spend the same amount of time at each level, because that's not always how it happens.
The ball out too.
You know, some coaches
That's the first
get to the college level pretty quickly, and others, they spend, maybe the last portion of their career there.
Hines has
Some
been
coaches go to the professional league and then come back to college, and that's where they stay.
6 points.
Some coaches go to the professional league,
Foster. Swipes the ball
go to
away.
college, go back to the professional league, go back to college, and they might even in some cases go back to high school.
The Raptors down by
So I want there to be
3.
just a really diverse
Big time block. Jackson.
endings that you can have, and I don't want any two playthroughs to be the same.
Patterson. Jackson with the spin.
And I want it to be easy to win a few games,
Ball loose.
but hard to win a lot of
It's
games.
a backboard violation.
And so success is going to be an actual achievement.
For McDice.
And I also don't want programs to be able to be turned around in 2 seasons, because that's not realistic.
Van Horn. And he's going to gun the 3 ball. Moving
Programs
with the 8-footer.
sometimes take generations
That kid is off the chains.
to really build up. So I could see if a player really wanted to turn a program around or build the program up,
Dribbling
they
up
could
court.
spend as much time there as they could with one coach,
Oh, my man just broke his ankle.
and then finish out that playthrough, and then come in with a new coach and go back to that same program, try to continue that build-up that they left off. Because then that creates a realistic time frame to me. And that's radically different than how games would have you do it now.
Picks off the pass. Van Horn with the 10-footer. Nothing but net.
He is off.
So really the
Pacers
point
down
is
13 points.
that sense of journey and that sense of being able to go almost anywhere
Time to go.
in the country.
Batee. Foster steals the ball.
And then for those places to feel and look different as well.
Foster. Denied.
Ooh, he really wanted a piece of that one.
Van Horn called for an offensive foul. That definitely was a charge. He had
So
position.
kind of like a sandbox game a little bit.
Batee. Got it. This season has
Or
been
maybe
low
open
percentages,
world in a sense.
56%.
In a sense that the football world is open.
O'Neal. Harrington.
And that those areas actually feel
So that is the end of the first quarter.
like there's stuff there and it's not just text on a screen, you know?
We are ready for the second quarter. The Pacers
And at the same time, it'll be a nostalgia simulator as well.
got a piece of that one.
That's his third
Because there's going to be a sports show.
Jackson passes
Um,
it into Clark. And he spins. Batee. The shot goes in, plus a foul.
Even like little short commercials for fictional products and
Comes to the
stuff.
line to shoot one.
The T is 76% this year. Good free agent pickup.
Yes. Last season,
He could be the sixth man of the year.
percentage of 87%.
And we'll see who the awards go to.
O'Neal.
I think we've gotten the sixth man before.
O'Neal with the spin. Gets it out.
We also got the Rookie of the
Gugliotta.
Year award, but we gave that player away. We traded him.
Drops in at 2.
Yes.
The Pacers lead by 2. Batee. Patterson. Jackson with the turnaround. Clark with a big time block.
And what I mean by a nostalgia simulator is like there's times that I might be working on something and I'll turn on like NFL primetime or some football game from the 80s or 90s or something.
O'Neal. Batee
And
grabs the rebound.
for some reason I like watching that.
And he spins.
It is very nostalgic for some reason, even if I never saw it before, or
Jackson.
even if I wasn't alive specifically in that time period.
Batee.
Come on, it's time to get something going. Let's see what they can pull off.
And another shot missed.
But there's something about like the sportscaster personalities and their mannerisms and
Brings the house down.
the way the
I'll tell you,
commercials
Brett,
were back
that
then,
slam could have broken the basket.
and the way
So far
the
this season, he
sports
has a
network
field goal percentage
graphics
of
were, and
51%.
like the way they talked, and just the entire atmosphere
Down by
of all of
4.
that
Dribbling up court. Lou
is really nostalgic, and so
around the perimeter to
it would be a really interesting feature.
2 minutes.
I honestly don't know
remaining
if
first
people
half.
would really like that or not,
Carter
but they seem to like it in 2K5, at least the sports show aspect.
throws up a tough one. Knocks down the 10
So
Hello?
if I could do something like that, I think that would be really interesting.
In the last season, he
Because
had
then
a
it would
percentage
make
of
the
68%. Gugliotta.
it'd make all the leagues come to life, because there's this personality talking about it on a show, and we're talking about it like it's real.
Curry. Stockton.
We traded Draco, but the team is fire now.
With the spin.
Have to give some to get
Lou.
some.
Carter. From well within his range.
Yeah, he was kind of used as a
Range now.
He makes that look too
like
easy.
a stepping stone almost.
The Raptors lead by 1. Moves up. Harrington. Lou is there to
But
intercept.
I don't think I really think people know what I mean exactly by nostalgia simulator,
To go.
because I don't fully know yet either. But
The Raptors should try and rotate the ball better and get everybody involved in the offense.
once I actually have
Finds his man in the lane.
a
Gets it
piece
out
of that
to
working, I think I'll be
Gugliotta.
able to really
Finds his man in the paint. And he spins.
show what I mean,
Throws up a tough
or
one.
figure out what I
Oh,
mean
that was a
exactly.
nice dime.
Harrington now has 4 field goals.
Yeah.
Lou with a reverse slam.
He was just blown away.
Overall, it's going to be a very different kind of game. It's going to be similar,
The Raptors
familiar in a lot of ways,
dribbling
also
up
very
the floor.
different.
Harrington
Something new, I guess.
with the spin.
Yeah, I think we need that in sports games. We need sports games to be clones of each other as well, to offer better versions of the same thing, but we also need
And he spins.
new stuff.
Blows by. Curry gets
And
the ball out to Stockton.
I don't know if it's just because there aren't a lot of developers, or because sports games just don't really lend themselves to be
Only a
that
few
creative.
seconds left.
Whichever one it is,
My man just took the ball right
we definitely need it.
Is showing us some lousy ball handling.
And it's
That
gone.
signals the end of
By
the half,
halftime, we're
and
up
we have a close game
22-19.
on our hands.
How long before the game is ready, you think? And I don't even
Now we
know.
head on to the second half. The Raptors
I've been working on it for,
5-3.
well, technically, to be honest,
Jackson, Batee,
I've been wanting to make a football game
Patterson,
since
and throws
2014.
it into the paint. Jackson,
And that was a long time ago, obviously.
Clark,
And that was back before I knew anything about programming or anything about game design. Or
He is just swatting
back then, I
everything in
just
sight.
liked football games.
with the
I was like,
off-balance
oh,
shot.
I like 2K more than Madden. You know, it'd be cool to make a 2K game. I couldn't even comprehend like the scope of what that would take. You know.
They can't keep him off the glass.
And 2016 comes along,
Knocks
and
down the 22-footer, and it's a
I actually
one-point
start
game.
getting into programming a little bit.
The Raptors
I
lead
go
by
to
1. Carter,
community college and take a couple classes, and whatever value I got from that, I don't know, but I got some kind of value from it.
Batee,
And then
back out
2016 or
to
17,
O'Neal is hungry.
I felt like I could do something, and
Gugliotta,
I didn't finish anything. I just like make pieces of things, and
Kerr,
I would run into some kind of,
Gugliotta,
you know, stumbling block, and I would fall away. You know,
Time to
I'd
go to the basket. Too much
give up.
passing around.
And then I also
picks off the pass.
tried outsourcing everything. I tried paying people to make some kind of game,
Batee with the
and
off-balance shot.
I found out the hard way that
Three-point game.
in game development, if you don't have thousands of dollars at least, you're not going to pay anyone to make anything of note.
With the 10-footer,
So I lost a little bit of money several times doing that.
and he brings it up court.
Then the past,
Patterson, Batee,
Patterson, I think like last year,
Batee,
I did a similar project, but it was a little bit different. I was basically trying to make like a,
Batee comes to the line.
it was a mobile game
Hits his
that
first.
was reminiscent of football, so it was a football-like sport that I made up. It was going to have a really simple franchise mode,
Kid is straight butter from the line.
and so I kind of learned some things with that
Gugliotta,
and got really into JavaScript.
Ham,
And
Harvey, Gugliotta,
it wasn't until last year, like towards the end of last year,
Harvey,
or no, towards the beginning of last year,
Something going. Let's see what they can pull
that
off.
I decided, well,
away.
Imagine what that could
I don't
do
have the money
just watching
to
your
pay
shot
someone to do it.
punished like that.
even if I did, it would be a really convoluted process of trying to get everything the way I wanted it, because I'm kind of a perfectionist. And then if I never actually did it, I would never stop thinking about it. And so, and like there's other games I'd like to make at some point, but none of them are as prominent in my mind as this. But I thought, well, I really have to either do it or not. Nice little back and forth here by the AI. Brilliant AI right here. So I did decide to actually do it or not. And I felt confident enough with that last mobile project. It's like, well, I know I have the ability to do this, but I have to change the game design in some way. The biggest stumbling block was live on-field gameplay. Because that stuff is just really complicated. Like it's a lot more complicated than it seems. Because I had done a project before that to where it kind of worked. Like I could sort of play out a part of a football play. I could pick plays and they would line up and do stuff. But it was like the live gameplay was so rough, and I just couldn't figure. I had no idea how to like refine it and make it better. Like it worked exactly as I made it to be, but I didn't know how to refine it. But once I threw out the concept of live simulated gameplay and like stick controls, the project became more feasible, because everything else is logic to me. Once I kind of gave up that part and focused more on a coach mode style game, it became easier. Still tough, but a lot easier. So I've been doing it for all that to say that I've been doing it for the past, I don't know, 6-7 months or so. And I'm just finishing up the simulation engine for the actual games. It's not the final iteration of it, but it's to where it'll actually simulate outcomes that produce realistic stats. So like you'll have teams that'll run or pass the ball, the quarterback will get sacked, the tacklers will tackle the ball carrier, and this is all just simulated in code. There's field goals, there's probabilities and all that stuff, onside kicks, punts, going for it on fourth down, and so all of that is about 90% working. But as far as like when it'll actually be finished, can't say right now. But I don't think I'll be able to really show anything until several months from now. And showing something isn't saying that it's near completion, it's just showing like proof of concept.
And it's a 2-point game again.
So
The Pacers down by 2.
That was an easy steal.
and I don't want to start like any kind of devlog,
The off-balance shot. Scores a 2.
because I want
Is all tied up at 34. Moves
to
up.
I want to kind of have like the first real public announcement of it. Be something substantial. It doesn't have to be like in a perfect state, but it has to be something to where people see what I'm doing and they can see all the different facets of it.
It's a 2.
Oh man, this guy's got game.
But it won't be until months from now that I have anything to really show people to say this is,
You just can't coach speed.
a concrete example of what I'm doing.
Dog, I can barely
Concept is there.
in here.
Get her done. Will be rewarding, and if it catches fire, you will be a rich man.
The game is tied at 36. Anderson. Foster.
Yeah, it'll be nice if it makes money.
3-second violation.
Although if it doesn't make a whole bunch of money, I'd be fine as well.
Harrington comes in for
'Cause I just want to see this thing actually become a thing you can actually do, and it's not just a fantasy in my head, you know?
and he spins
That would be the greatest reward.
with a 15-footer. Swishes the
And
shot.
if some kind of financial success does follow that,
Take the lead once again.
even if it's meager, that's a bonus as well.
The Pacers down by 2. Foster rejected.
If I was only concerned about money, then I
Across the court to Anderson.
just make gimmicky mobile games
Harrington. Anderson.
with microtransactions or whatever.
Throws
Because
up.
somehow those make money.
We're down to our last minute.
Shake and bake is what I call that move.
Oh, baby, what a dunk.
Just blow it up the rim.
Vince Carter with the dunk.
Fans love what
36-40.
they're seeing tonight.
A lot of people will play it. I think so.
The Pacers down by 4.
Like everyone's fond of 2K5
Foster. With a
for a
turnaround,
reason.
and he puts it in gently.
I'm not saying that my game will be like
And it's a
2K5
different game again.
because it's not going to have that style of gameplay. But
Anderson.
everyone likes the halftime shows,
Oh, you know that's gonna be
the
a
weekly
sports
Sports Center, the draft previews, that whole thing of making the world seem real.
Lead by 4.
That still really hasn't been done
Van Horn.
very much in any sports game. 2K has done it a little bit in their basketball games.
Dice is coming back in.
Nothing like 2K5, and they never really expanded on it. So that aspect is something that people still don't really have in a game.
O'Neal. Get him out of the way. Here comes the power
And
slam.
so I think that will be very attractive to people. I don't know if like the specific aesthetic, like the time period, it's kind of set in the 80s, 90s, early 2000s.
Dice.
I don't know if that specifically will appeal to younger people.
20 seconds.
I think people my age,
Swipes the
give or
ball
take a
away.
little bit, would find it appealing.
Nails it too.
Oh man, this guy's gonna
But that's something that's not negotiable.
Now have
That's an
44
integral
points.
part of the design, is the aesthetic.
The Pacers down by 4.
Power of goggles right there.
Rebound by Patterson.
He's got the power goggles,
Carter. Jackson.
plus 2 strength.
Clark. Jackson. Shoots it over the block.
Boom, sinks that 3.
he is off a meter.
And that's the end of the
Nice
game.
little
The Raptors
stab there at the end.
with the win at the end of this hard
Patterson picks up the scraps and steals the deal.
40. Stewart.
47-40.
Team chemistry is their key. With everybody
Nice.
doing what is asked of them, the whole team believes. The Pacers, it just seems as
Don
though they're
Batiste
going
scored
through the
13
motions of playing
points,
a
so
game.
he is
They're
the
committed
team
to
leader in
hitting free
points.
throws. They're taking bad shots. These guys have
Or,
to go
yeah.
back to the drawing
No?
board and come up with a new game plan.
Thanks for joining us, folks. For Stuart
Yeah, Don
Scott,
Batiste,
this is
13.
Brent Musburger bidding you farewell. You've
Followed
been watching
by
ESPN, the worldwide leader in
Mr.
sports.
Lou, believe it or
For
not,
more,
with 8
log on
points.
to ESPN.com.
Carter was 7.
You're watching the NBA on ESPN.
Okay, so that puts us at 2-1 this session. I think, right? That's it, 10-2. Can't see us falling out of the playoff picture with 10 wins. Of course, we're at the top of the Eastern, and we're back at number 1 in the league, in front of Phoenix and Dallas. So, seems like Toronto, Phoenix, and Dallas are kind of jockeying for top 3 spots here, because we seem to be in the top 3 the past couple weeks. So who do we have left? We got Charlotte and then Indiana again. Indiana, I think, has a decent chance of beating us. Charlotte. Where's Charlotte? Charlotte's at number 15. Well, can't say never because we did lose to Atlanta. Atlanta is number 6, so they're definitely not a pushover team right now. All right, Patrick. See you later. Yeah. So we went 2-1. We lost to Atlanta 34-45, beat Chicago 48-40, and then we beat Indiana. Next time we're going to be playing Charlotte, Indiana, and then we're going to see how the playoff picture turns out. Championship games or conference championship games or whatever. We'll be seeing all of that. But that's going to do it for me. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks to Patrick and GM Gunner for being in the chat. Anyone else who was watching, always appreciate someone in the chat. But that's going to do it for me. Hope you guys enjoyed it. And I will be seeing you guys in the next one.